In this lecture I will show you how to install some of the services that you will need for the third project, which deals with firewalls. What we're going to want to do is to install Apache, which is a web server. We want to make sure that SSH is running, and if not, we need to install that. We want to install an FTP client, and we want to install telnet as well as Samba. And Samba is a service that lets Windows and Linux computers talk to each other. So first, let's see what kind of services we've got running right now. And I'm in Ubuntu server. And if you don't know how to install Ubuntu server, I've got a video, a lecture that shows you how to do that. We're going to type netstat tpan to show you the services that are running. It shows you what we've got running. And we've got SSH is the service running over TCP. We do have other services running over TCP/6. And so what we need to do is first let's install Apache. And Apache is a web server, open source web server, and that will be running over port 80. So we're going to type sudo aptitude if you've got that installed, or apt-get aptitude install Apache 2. Excuse me, before we do that, let's run sudo aptitude update. Okay, so we see what we have running. Let's look at our network right now. It's on a private address. Let's go up to our VM settings, because we're going to need to set this to network address translation so that we can download all the files that we need. So we set that to NAT. We click OK. Now we're going to notice here that we've got the same IP address. What we need to do is we need to stop and restart the network. So we type sudo etc initd networking stop and start, which will now pick up the DHCP. And let's look at our address. So now we have a NATed address here, so we should be able to run sudo aptitude update just to make sure we've got the most updated packages. Now we can type, whoops, well, there's quite a few updates. I'll go ahead and I'll update everything and using safe upgrade, and you won't have to watch this. Aptitude safe upgrade, whoops, having trouble typing this morning. Sudo aptitude safe upgrade, and then I will pause. Let's see what needs to be updated. Apparently Samba's already installed on this, but there's a video that I've created that you can see how to install and to configure Samba, so I'll include that on the website. And so yes, let's go ahead and update this information, and now I will pause the video for a while and then get back to you. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes and the installation is completing, the updating. Okay, so let's see what we've got installed first. So we can run sudo aptitude and search for names. Let's search for Apache. I've already done this, and it's a very long listing. And this is going to show us what's installed and what's not installed. And because it's a long listing, I'm piping that to less. And if something is installed, you will see an I over here in the left-hand corner. And you see that Apache is not installed, so we want to install that. Let's that Q to get out. And so sudo aptitude install Apache 2. Ask us if we want to install these packages, 10 installed packages. Hit enter. And I'll pause this until it's finished. Okay, so the installation is complete. Let's go back and do our search again. And we see now that Apache and some of its dependencies have been installed. Let's take a look at netstat and see if Apache is running. And you notice here, port 80, it's running. And so, since we've got SSH, we've got Apache running, we also need to install FTP, and the package for FTP is called vsftpd, and the D stands for daemon. Hit enter. It's a single package. And we're done. Let's go back and run netstat again. And port 21 is open. Good. Now let's install telnet. And by the way, just to scroll back and forth between the history of the commands, I'm hitting Control P for previous and Control N for next. Now, on a real system, we would not install telnet. We would install SSH. We would do everything encrypted. In fact, even with FTP, for security reasons, we use SSH or secure copy to copy files to and from our servers. And the reason is because telnet and FTP send your credentials in the open. That is in clear text, so we don't want that. But for the purposes of this demonstration, so you can set up a firewall, I want you to have telnet. And so hit enter. 2 packages, they're going to be installed. And we're done. And let's run netstat again. And telnet port 23 is open. We're almost finished. Okay, let's check out and see if Samba is installed. So sudo aptitude search Samba. I'm going to pipe it to less. I don't know how many. So it looks like Samba's installed. However, we also need smbusers, and I don't see that on there. Server management block file system. Let's do a search for smbusers. I have a separate video that demonstrates how to configure your Samba server, so at some point in time you need to watch that and follow the directions to make sure that Samba is working. And recall that Samba allows Windows computers to access Linux and vice versa. And so we know we've got everything installed that we need to. 139 and 445 are Samba, Apache, FTP, and we've got SSH, and we've got telnet. Okay, let's create an account which on this server that will allow you to test whether you can access each of these services. So we're going to type sudo adduser, and you can name it whatever you want. Let's go ahead and name it guest. It wants our Unix password, and I'm just going to use guest as the password. Whatever it is, make sure you remember it. Okay, so we've got a new user guest, and we will use that account to log in from another computer. And so now let's go over to one of our other VMs. Oh, one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that all of our VMs are on the same network, because you can have a host-only network, or you can be natted, or you could share the IP of your host. And so we want to make sure that we all have the same network settings for our 3 VMs that we're going to use. And so let's go back to the main screen, server 9. Let's go to VM settings, and this is on NAT. Let's just go ahead and make this a host only. A custom specific virtual network. Let's make it VMnet 5. And actually what we need to do is to go and take a look at that in the editor, just to see what the configuration is. So we go up to Edit, Virtual Network Editor. Yes. And let's go to VMnet 5. Notice that VMnet 5 is the name of the network. The type is host only. It's connected, it's enabled, and the subnet address is 192.168.14.0. This is a host only. Connect VMs internally in a private network. Connect a host virtual adapter to this network. Yes. Use local DHCP service to distribute IPs to the VM. Yes, so that looks fine. And so let's do an ifconfig. Oops. Let's do an ifconfig. And we're still working under the old IP address. And so we need to restart networking. It's releasing the telnetd networking stop. It stops the networking. So just to preview that fact, ifconfig. Notice that there is no ETH0 in here. Scroll back up. Let's change that to start. ifconfig, and we're on the appropriate VMnet 5 because it's .14.128. Write that down. So on our server, .128. Okay, now we need 2 other VMs. Let me see where our XP clone is. The memory is 1024. I've got 1024 on here. If you don't have as much RAM as I do, I think I have 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM. You can set this at 512. It doesn't matter. You don't want to slow down your entire machine. Hopefully you should be doing this and nothing else that's computationally intensive. But if you need to, you can set that at 512. But I've got mine at 1024. And we're going to just check and make sure that this has the correct. Oh, and you know what we didn't do? What did I forget to do? Forgot to go up to VMnet, VM settings. Notice it says host only. We want to change it to a specific virtual network. Select VMnet host only 5. Here we go. Control Alt Insert. And so we want to open our command prompt and type ipconfig. And it's on a different network, as you can see right here. So it already got its IP address before I changed it. So we'll need to change that by typing ipconfig/release. Notice that it doesn't have an IP address. And scroll back up, type renew. And the Windows box is at .130. Write that down. XP is at 130. Let's see if we can ping 128, which was our server. There you go. Let's go back up to our server and see if we can ping the Windows box. Obviously, we should be able to. There it is. Okay. So we've got two computers on the same network. Now let's select another one. Let's see, we got Ubuntu, and here's a version, a little different user interface than the GNOME interface or the traditional Mint interface. You know, it really doesn't matter what interface you use as long as you can get to the terminal. Because underneath they all work the same. All the Ubuntu, all the Debian-based systems pretty much work the same, Ubuntu and Mint. Okay, so I right-click, and there's the terminal. And of course I didn't go up here, and I didn't change the VM settings. I should have. It's already on VMnet 5. Great. Alright, let's type ipconfig .14.132. Write that down. Mint .132. Let's see if we can ping the Windows machine. We can, and let's see if we can ping the server 128. And we can. Okay, so we've got our system of 3 computers. We have server, XP, and Mint that are now on the same network. And so now let's see from here if we can log in to the server using the guest account. So we want SSH guest at 192.168.14.128. It's asking us about the authentication of the RSA key. We should go back and make sure that that is correct, but for now, since we're just doing this for a demo, we say yes. What's the password? Guest. And notice now we're on server. So that works. And now let's get out of that. And now let's try to FTP into the server. Guest. And we are in. Let's type by. And now finally, let's telnet into the server. And we're in. Okay. You know that works. Let's go back over to the XP clone. Let's go back over to the XP clone and see if we can FTP into the server. And we're in. Let's type by and clear. Now let's see if we can telnet into the server. Telnet 192.168.14.128. And we're in. Okay, so we've got all this set up. And there's no SSH client that comes installed in XP or Windows 7. So what you can do is you can download and install some SSH client, for example WinSCP or PuTTY, P-U-T-T-Y, install that and make sure that it works, because I want to make sure that you see that you can connect to the server from both Windows and whatever Linux that you're using over here. And the whole point of this is that you're going to make sure you can connect, and then you're going to create some firewall rules on the server, and I will tell you what those policies should be. Oh, we've forgotten one thing. We didn't check to see if XP will connect the server over SMBFS. So let's go back over here, and I'll run through this quickly. Let's see if this works. So what we're going to need to do is to change some of the configuration files. And so we've got Vim installed on here. Good. Okay, so I want to get in and change the configuration file of etc samba smb.conf. And what we need to look for here is the word security. And you see here, this says security equals user. And normally, I must have already done this. That's why this is set up this way. Okay, so just realize that security equals user. This should be uncommented. It might be commented when you first see this, but make sure that's uncommented. So security equals user should be uncommented like it is. And also the username. Oh, I didn't. Sorry. This is sudo. Let's go back in and search for security. And the username map equals etc samba smb users. And what that allows Samba to do is to use the smb users file for looking up the user list. And so you want to make sure security equals user, and you have this line in right here. Save that and go on down. And there's one more thing we're going to need to do. We're going to search for the word share. Notice we have here share definitions. And we want to, it says uncomment the following line to enable the default home directory shares. This will share each user's home directory as /server username. And so we want to go down here. We want to uncomment this, and uncomment that. So homes comment equals home directories, browsable equals yes. I want to save that. Okay, we need to do a couple more things. We need to add, there's two steps to creating a Samba user. One type sudo smb password -a, and this is going to be called guest. So it's going to add a guest. The smb password is guest. Okay. And now one last change we need to make is we need to edit the file etc samba smb users. And yes, I've already done this before for PC for another demonstration. So what we have here is that when guest logs in, they get the guest account on the local system. Notice this doesn't have to match. For example, you could have guest and have another name here indicating that when guest logged in, they get somebody another directory. But for now, they're going to get the home directory guest for the guest account. Here we go. Now we need to restart two services. We need to restart SMBD, the Samba daemon, and then NMBD for the NetBIOS name server daemon. So we can type sudo service SMBD restart, and then NMBD restart. Okay, so you see that it says that it was stopped and started, and it's now running, and these are the process IDs. Let's go back over here, close this, and let's open my computer, and now we can type the IP address of the server, 28/guest. Beautiful. It's asking for the username, guest password. Okay, oh, it's not showing us anything. What's going on here? Well, it's because there are only hidden files in this directory. See if we go back over here and let's create a new file. cd home guest sudo touch hello.txt. Okay, so now there's a file in the guest home directory. Let's go back over here. Oh, and there it is right there. And so now we have got a connection between the Ubuntu server and Windows XP over Samba. If we want to copy something else over there. Ooh. There we go, and we can copy this back over here. Here we go. Okay. So now we see that we've got full connectivity between our three computers. And so what I'm going to want you to do is to now, based on policies that I set up, I want you to create firewall rules that implement those policies. And what you're going to do is that you are going to only turn in the firewall rules. That will be your deliverable. And what I will do is that I will install those firewall rules here in server. And then what I will do is I will attempt to log in and do exactly what I just did. That is logging in from here using SSH, FTP, and telnet. And your firewall rules will allow some of those connections, but not others. Over here, I will attempt to log in to the server using telnet, FTP, Samba, and SSH. Some of those rules should allow those connections, and some rules will not. And so the extent your grade will be calculated based upon how well you implement those rules. If it turns out that I can't do what I need to do based upon those policies, that will be a mark against you. So this should be fairly straightforward, and this is really teaching you how to do some networking and connectivity. Of course, within a virtual system here, but it would work exactly the same on a real system.